And most trainers are like, I want to train professional athletes. And, 1% of people actually make it there where they're training professional athletes. But, going through that journey, you have a lot of general population clients that you're dealing with, and every single person that walks into the gym is a jigsaw puzzle. Everyone's got different stresses, everyone's got different lifestyles, everyone's got different traumas that they're carrying from fucking childhood and shit like that. So, every single person's is a jigsaw puzzle, and your methodology has, really opened my eyes to. I was kind of already doing some of that stuff, but without kind of knowing the mechanisms behind it. Just by looking at how people moved and how they walked into the gym, what their body language was like, how they were speaking, et cetera, et cetera. Because I did my NLP courses and things like that when I was younger. But yeah, your course really put a lot of that stuff together for me. And I think it's a really powerful tool for trainers. And it's one of those courses that I would recommend to really new trainers that are getting into the space to manage people's fucking health first before they then start putting the foot on the accelerator and trying to get them, to their end state. Because a healthy organism is an adaptable organism, and we need to be in a healthy position first before we can then start going into beast mode, like you say. Can you give your explanation of the autonomic nervous system for people listening at home? Because I've spoken about it numerous times on the podcast. They're probably sick of hearing me speak about it. I'd like to hear your take on it and how you would explain that to people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just to come kind of on the back end of what you just said, when I wrote the foundations course, I said, okay, I'm going to write the course that I wish I had 20 years ago when I started training people. So what would have been the most valuable thing? And how do we say, okay, as a trainer, you shouldn't be like, I know some trainers want to read labs and biochemistry panels and all this stuff. It's not your job, and most of us don't have the training for it. How do I find, okay, let's have a symptom profile, and let's take those symptoms and let's match them up with objective data to form a blueprint and fit those jigsaw pieces together so that we can make the right protocol that's going to work for that person in that at that moment at that time. And then how do I progress them through proper periodization to improve their health and then improve their performance? Now, when we look at the autonomic nervous system, there's the two main branches that people think about. And just to define the autonomic nervous system, this is basically all the stuff that keeps you alive that's pretty much automated. Now, we do have some control over this. Training and nutrition can control. We have supplementation that can control these things, breathing techniques, more sleep, less sleep. This can move things in positive and negative manners. But if you didn't have the autonomic nervous system, you wouldn't remember. You'd have to constantly remember to breathe, right? And there's things that control stress response, relaxation response, and all that. So when you look at the traditional two branches, you've got sympathetic and parasympathetic. Now, we are designed to be mainly in the parasympathetic pathway the majority of the time. The way I look at a lot of stuff, and a lot of people give me flack about this, but I look at things from an evolutionary perspective. Okay, if you took our environment away and put us back in loincloths with spears, the only reason you would have a sympathetic system is in case a lion jumped out at you and you had to either run or you had to fight. That's realistically all it is. So our those pathways aren't really different than they were, say, 10,000 years ago. What's different is our environment. And so the environment is causing this sympathetic system, which is a very acute system. It's supposed to go up and then immediately go down. Now it's revved up all the time. So it would be like getting in your car, slamming in the first gear, and then trying to go, 120K on the motorway. Your engine would go, ram, poof. But that's exactly what people are doing with their own physiology, right? So what we need to do is make sure that we have a good parasympathetic reserve, and we're most of the time in that pathway. It's better for everything. It's better for fat burning. It's better for relaxation. It's better for long-term health. But we need to be able to flip that switch, and we still need to stimulate the sympathetic drive at some point. So that's what training is supposed to be. But if you're massively sympathetic all the time and you go and train and drive that harder, you're just making it worse when you try to go back to rest, and you never actually really recover properly. It's going to impair your sleep. It's going to impair your hormones. It's going to impair your gut. It's going to impair your brain, your immune system, everything. It just makes everything crash. And there's a third part of that sometimes you'll see associated with that, sometimes not, which is the enteric system, which the enteric nervous system is your gut. So Used to, when I was at Polican Group, the solution for a gut issue was an elimination diet and then throw 500 fucking pills and potions at it. I quickly found out after I left that, you know what, the easiest way, I still believe in elimination diets. I never run any allergy testing, food intolerance panels, or any of that. I just do an elimination test. We remove things that are bothering your gut. We replace it with something else for 6 to 8 weeks. Then we add back stuff slowly. But and that works really well to calm things down. But the main thing is we have to get control of the brain's response to things. So the more hyped up you are and the more sympathetic you are, the more likely you are to have gut issues, bloating, diarrhea, belching, gas that peels the paint off the wall, all that stuff, pain in your stomach. If you can get everything calmed down, most of your gut issues will just disappear. But that's not what people want to hear. It's like, hey, maybe you shouldn't work 80 hours a week. Hey, maybe you should sleep more than 4 hours a night. Maybe you shouldn't go to the gym twice a day for 2 hours. Maybe you should not eat 1,200 calories, maybe try 2,400 calories. Maybe you should take a multivitamin. That stuff's too hard. It's a lot easier for somebody to go to Australian sports nutrition and ask some 18-year-old about a gut, and they hand you some box of bullshit that just makes you shit and piss yourself all day, and it doesn't work, right? It's absolutely free to heal most gut problems by getting your brain and your autonomic nervous system balanced. Right? Now, last thing I'll say on this, don't think about this as a teeter totter because it's not. Think about it as two elevators, and they can go up or they can go down. So if your parasympathetic system is down here and your sympathetic drive is up here, what we need to do is remove things that keep the sympathetic system up. So maybe reduce your training a little bit or change your training focus from neural to maybe more metabolic stuff. Don't do HIIT training, do more aerobic style stuff. Only go to lowest effective dose and prioritize sleep and having a hobby and spending time with your family and whatever else that makes you happy in life and gives you self-fulfillment. Journaling, reflecting, long moonlit walks at the beach, whatever floats your boat. If you start removing the stuff that is causing the sympathetic drive, it will lower. But the missing piece is you have to actively work on parasympathetic system. As sympathetic system go down, parasympathetic system can still stay suppressed. You have to work on sleep, passion, eudanism, family, friends, social life. You still have to work on that. So you have to train the parasympathetic side just as diligently as you train the sympathetic side, or you're kind of wasting your time.
I love that, man. That's an excellent explanation. Um, now, for people listening, the sympathetic state, the fight or flight state, is essential for short term survival, and the parasympathetic state, rest and digest, is essential for long term survival. And as Luke said, it's your body's constantly trying to get back to homeostasis and balance everything out so that you know everything is running optimally. And you know, as Luke said, there are different stress responses, and low level stress in your everyday life adds up to chronic stress. So, how I like to explain this to my clients is, I will take, a sheet of paper and I'll draw a line down the middle. Left column, right column. Left column is going to be the sympathetic state. Right column is going to be the parasympathetic state. And I add up all the things on the left side that create stress, and that might be a poor night's sleep. It might be poor nutrition, you know, less than optimal hydration levels, might be problems with my relationship, might be career issues, or anxiety around what I'm doing with my life and where I'm going, and financial problems, and the kids are being little shits or whatever. And they might all be like level 1, 2, 3s. Okay, but all of those things add up, and if they're not dealt with, then over time that's going to become chronic stress, and then your sympathetic state is going to be jacked up, your parasympathetic state is going to be well suppressed, and there's going to be a massive imbalance there, which is then going to lead to illness and disease and inflammation and all that type of stuff.